Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by mixed martial artist Daniel Swain. Daniel, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for doing it. Daniel, you got a fight coming up October 24th at PFC 1. Before we start talking about that fight, I'm just curious, how did you get your nickname Agent Orange? That's one of my favorite nicknames. Just curious, I pretty much know why they call you that, but who gave you that nickname?
Actually, it was my college wrestling coach after a wrestling practice. I had just recently started fighting amateur, and we were talking about how I didn't have a nickname, and my coach, being the guy he was, said Agent Orange, and I actually didn't like it at first. I thought it was a little dorky, because I didn't really want a nickname. But being on a wrestling team, that kind of sticks, so I went with it.
So it followed you into MMA. Okay, I was just curious about that. Now, coming up on October 24th, you're going to be fighting at PFC 1. How's training been going for the fight?
Training's been going great. I just recently had a fight at the end of September as well, so I'm already in shape, so I just went right back into camp. I didn't suffer any injuries in the fight. So, right now just honing my craft and getting ready for the fight.
Are you still training out of Trevor Prangley's gym?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Just curious, who's there? Who are some of the guys that you work with, and who are some of your coaches? So you got Trevor Prangley, obviously, and then a really good 85er named Will Nolan's one of my striking coaches, along with tough vet Richie Whitson. Then I've got some high-level jiu-jitsu guys from the area who are brown belt and black belt, who are competing worlds and stuff, who are working with my jiu-jitsu a lot. So I've got a good stable of guys to help get me to that next level. How far away is the gym from where you live? Because I know you live in Washington, but you train in Idaho at Prangley's gym, so how far is the commute?
It's about a 40-minute drive one way.
And is that the only place you train at, or do you do some other training at some other places?
No, I'll train if I work late or something, or I'm not able to make the gym in Coeur d'Alene in time. I'll train at Warrior Camp in Spokane, Washington, with guys like Josh Reddinghouse and Lee Morrison. So I've got a good stable of guys everywhere I go, really, in the area. We've got a lot of tough guys in the Pacific Northwest, and we're all willing to work with each other and get each other better.
Have you ever went down to the other AKA, the main AKA gym in San Jose?
I have not, but we are planning a trip this winter, actually, to head down there, a bunch of guys, and we're going to go down there and train for a couple weeks. So that's the plan for this winter.
You're currently riding a 2-fight win streak. You picked up a win in September, and then you picked up a win in August after your fight at RFA 27 against Scott Temetz. That fight didn't go your way. It was you just got caught in that fight. It only lasted 30 seconds. Just curious, because I know before that, the fight before that at M1, you were hoping that if you got a win on that card, you would get an opportunity to fight in the UFC. You were hoping for that call. Unfortunately, that fight ended in a draw, so you looked at that fight and were like, okay, I probably need to get a win. And then that Temetz fight, since it was under the RFA banner, if you would have got a win, you probably would have got a call into the UFC. So I have two questions. First part, how big of a setback was that loss? And second part, how long did it take for you to get over that fight?
The loss to Temetz is it was a big setback for me. I'd never been KO'd before. I've suffered a TKO, but I wasn't really hurt. I was just stuck in a bad position. So this is the first time that I've actually been, physically hurt in a fight. So that was a little difficult for me to wrap my head around, even with as many fights as I've had. But that's one of the things in this sport. If you can't come back from something like that, then you shouldn't be doing the sport in the first place. So I just took it as motivation, got right back in the gym as soon as my suspension was up, and went to work. And then that first fight back in August, I was a little hesitant, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was a little worried about if my chin would hold up or not or any of that stuff. So, I went back to my wrestling, took the guy down, and was able to ground and pound and finish him in the first. And then I continued that same process with Drew Brokenshire last month, and it was able to secure me the win as well. So,
just curious, because the current season of The Ultimate Fighter, it's a 155-pound season. You fight at 145, but a ton of guys have fought on that show at a weight class above because it's easier to make weight, and that's their way into the UFC. Did you ever consider going down that path? Have you ever tried out for that show?
I have tried out. I tried out for this season, but since I was coming off a draw in Russia, they said that they couldn't. They wanted me to come into the house with at least a 3-fight win streak to build you up, so you're not coming in off a draw or a loss. So, and there was a ton of tough guys there, and a lot of guys I know who were on the show this season. So, you know, I went down there, and this is the second time I've tried out, so I knew the process and everything. And I'm just waiting again for the next time something around my weight gets put out there.
In the past, you fought for some of the best mid-major shows. You know, they're not the UFC, they're not Bellator, but they're not some small promotion that no one's ever heard of in the middle of nowhere. There are shows like RFA and Pancrase and M1 and XFC, those kind of shows. I like to call them mid-major shows because they have a good roster, they have good management, they have a platform for showcasing their fighters, but they're not quite at the UFC level. So just curious, who's your manager? Because whoever he is, he's doing a good job.
Yeah, I'm being, my management company is Relentless Sports Management, and they're doing great things for me. It's got me a lot of good opportunities, and, you know, we're just waiting for a call from one of the bigger promotions once I string together a few more wins.
When did you get the offer for this fight on the 24th? Because originally your opponent was supposed to fight someone else. I think he got injured, and now they came to you. When did you get the offer?
Actually, it was as I walked out of the cage when I got to the back from my last fight. A guy who gets a lot of local fighters around here fights, Will Hammond with White Buffalo Management, asked me, hey, there might be an opening at 145 on this card in Canada. Would you be interested? And riding the high I was on, I was like, yeah, and I couldn't be more excited for this fight. I feel like I match up well with Kurt, and I think it's going to be a great fight for the fans.
How much do you know about the promotion you're going to be fighting for on the 24th, Prestige Fight Club MMA? This is their first show. Do you know anything about them?
I don't know much about them. I do know that Scott Zer's working with them,
right,
and I worked with him when I fought for the MFC.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a couple of the guys in the promotion, but other than that, I don't know much about the promotion itself. Like you said, it's their first show, so I'm just going to go there with my expectations normally, and then I'm just going to go put on a great show for them, and hopefully they want me back.
Coming up on October 24th, you're going to be fighting Kurt Southern. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
Kurt Southern's tough. He's got heavy hands and real good boxing. He hasn't fought for the last couple of years. So I don't know what he's been doing in the last couple of years, if he's been training or not. I know for the last couple of years I've been really active and, you know, getting my fights up there. So I'm going to be ready for him in every position.
This is kind of a tough question because I'm asking you to get in the mind of your opponent, but looking at this fight from his point of view and his camp's point of view, what do you think his camp is telling him to do against you in this fight?
Well, I mean, if they're smart, they probably want to keep him at range and not let me get close to him, because if I get close to him, he's going down on his back, and from there I'll pick him apart with ground and pound until I can find the sub or TKO.
What do you think a win over Kurt Southern does for you? Is it something where you could potentially get a call from a big show? Right now you're on a 2-fight win streak. If you beat Southern, you're on a 3-fight win streak. Is it something where it could get you into a big show, or is it just one of those fights where it's just another fight, you get a win here, it's just a building block to getting to a bigger show? What do you think a win over Southern does for you?
Oh, Kurt's a very tough opponent. He's definitely game in all aspects of MMA. And like we said, he hasn't done much in the last 2 years, so I don't know what he's been doing training-wise. But I'm going to be prepared for him. I know with his record, he's a great name to have on my pedestal.
Daniel, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
I want to thank The Throne for hooking it up with some awesome gear for this fight. And then right now, other than that, I have Alchemy Water on board. They keep me hydrated for my camp and throughout my fight. And then Trevor Pringley's AKA for getting me prepared and ready for the fight.
Daniel, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck. October 24th at PFC 1 against Kurt Southern.
All right, thanks for having me.